Welcome to Real Estate Radio Power Investing, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate investing. Your host, Tom K. Wilson, provides you with insight and guidance from his years of experience as a successful real estate entrepreneur on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate, and much more. Now, here's your host for Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
Thanks for tuning in to our Real Estate Radio Power Investing program, where we empower you with the education to maximize your investing success. We're broadcasting from our Wilson Investment Properties headquarters in Silicon Valley. I'm Tom K. Wilson, your host for this weekly program on real estate investing. If you can't make the live show, you can catch our podcast on TomWilsonProperties.com or on iTunes or on YouTube. You can also go to TomWilsonProperties.com for our newsletter from Wilson Investment Properties, a sponsor of this program. You can get information on investing, on economic cycles, on various information that assists you in your investing education and future. Also, by signing up on that newsletter, you get access to and have connection with Wilson Investment Properties that offers private placement memorandum properties for typically $50,000 a share, which allows you to invest in and participate in properties around the country that normally only wealthy investors and or institutions can invest in. And we always welcome your input, questions, and enjoy talking to you about your investing experience in any way we can assist you. We have today on the program Larry Stone, who is the Santa Clara County Assessor. He's also investor and civic leader. Larry is elected Santa Clara County Assessor in 1994 and has been reelected by 5 different times, 6 terms total. And his constituency is larger than the governors of 13 states. It's a lot of people, Larry, to satisfy.
We're Silicon Valley, you know.
Amazing place, indeed. So, the Pulitzer Prize winning author and Washington Post reporter Haynes Johnson described Larry as a bright, articulate, and American rarity of proven political success in a time of political failure. San Jose Magazine named him as one of Silicon Valley's 100 most powerful leaders. Does your wife think you're powerful? Does she keep you grounded?
You bet she does.
Okay.
Married 50 years last week. So
congratulations. Larry's been a financial manager in Wall Street, served 2 terms as mayor of Sunnyvale, where he currently resides with his wife. He co-founded a successful real estate investment and development firm, a syndication firm. And he's even spent the night with his bride in the White House. So he's had quite a breadth of experience. He's also been an active, effective civic leader in many fields, ranging from the arts, education, and the environment. He's one of Silicon Valley's Renaissance men and has an extensive personal art collection. He's also a Knight of the Sovereign Order of St. John that I've been honored to also join in this past year. A 900-year-old charitable organization for sick and poor, and he's also a 27-year member of Rotary San Jose?
24,
coming up on 27, right? But and a leader, which is the 8th largest Rotary in the world. He's a native of Seattle, MBA from University of Washington, and please welcome a gem in political leadership, our own Santa Clara County Assessor, Larry Stone.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry, for being back on the program. So tell us what just briefly, because I think last time you were on, you told us before, what's the assessor's responsibility? What does your office do?
Well, the assessor is responsible for determining the assessed value of all real and business personal property. Real property is bricks and mortar, office buildings, shopping centers, condos, homes, things like that. Business personal property is a little less known, and that is all the things that are inside of a business. All your computers, your fixtures, your furniture, all that stuff is assessable. And because we're Silicon Valley, we are the 6th largest county in population. We have the 4th largest assessment roll in the state. But we're number 2 in business personal property because of all the sophisticated equipment and machinery and computers and the servers and all that stuff. That's all accessible.
Do you have a rough feel of what percent that is of total value?
Well, our total assessment roll that we closed just this July 1st, I'm required constitutionally to close the assessment roll every July 1st, was $485 billion. $35 billion of that is business personal property. So that's not the highest in the state, but it's number 2 next to LA, which is, of course, the big kahuna in the state. So it's a meaningful source of revenue.
What is that, just in my head, or like 7% or something, 8% of the total?
Yeah, it's about 8%.
Pretty significant.
Statewide, it averages about 3.5% to 4%. So we're almost double the state.
Well, one would certainly expect in a high-tech capital of the world to have a lot of valuable equipment and personal property for sure. Give us a little bit of the kind of state of the union about where are we now? We've been through, you and I have been here in the Valley for a long time. I'm watching cycle number 5. When I arrived in 1969 to work for Fairchild, I was told that I'd missed the run. It had all gone up in the 50s and 60s. Couldn't imagine it could go up anymore, and all the jobs are going to Japan. And here we are watching cycle number 5, and it keeps attracting people like Elon Musk from other countries and things like that. So where are we now relative to how low we got and what the peak was before the crash? And give us a little synopsis.
Well, we're well into the 7th year of the second largest post-recession recovery that we've had. So it's a very lengthy kind of thing. And of course, we can see it everywhere. The jobs, during the Great Recession, unemployment around here went almost to 12%. It's now less than 3%, I think 2.6%, which is really no unemployment at all because it's just enough, the jobs are just not there. Now we're seeing, and so almost all types of real estate, maybe say retail, has reached record levels, and record levels nationally and in the state, but particularly in Silicon Valley because we're really the engine, the economic engine of this state and certainly in the country. Now, I am seeing some softening in most of the property types. I'm seeing right now the apartment market, who has been very, very strong. I mean, rents have gone up since 2010 about 35% in this area. Maybe closer to 50% if you do the math. But I'm seeing 4 lease and 4 rent signs outside of major apartment complexes that I haven't seen in 4 or 5 years. The single-family home market is very, very strong, but we're seeing properties right now staying on the market longer, fewer multiple offers, fewer sales above the asking price, with some exceptions, of course. The office market is really becoming overbuilt. But people ask me, what's the difference between this boom we have been in for 7.5 years and the dot-com boom that occurred 18 years ago? My answer is a very, very big difference. The office market particularly. Back in the dot-com boom days, development was largely speculative. Developers leasing to startups with little or no earnings. They leased more space, expecting growth that never occurred when it went from the dot-com boom to the dot-com bust. That's different now. Apple, NVIDIA, Google, Facebook, and others are buying property and building buildings. So the stability of that kind of a base is much different than it was back when we went through the aftermath of the dot-com boom.
Was there more spec building back then without tenants or owners?
Clearly. I mean, during the height of this boom we've been in, 80% of all office development was pre-leased before it was completed.
My goodness.
Now that's less than 50% now, so it shows a softening of the market. I don't think it's anything really serious, but we're going to have more space, and the big players are still playing. But I'm told by commercial real estate brokers that new people into the market is slowing significantly. And of course, retail is upside down. I mean, largely because of Amazon and online, except only 11% of all retail sales are still online, which tells you that there's a lot of growth potential in the marketplace. But, retail is changing, it's evolving. There's a respected real estate researcher that says 30% of the 1,100 malls in this country will close in the next 24 months. 77 million square feet of retail space was vacated in the first quarter of this year. So we're seeing a real adjustment, food and less into buying stuff. And of course, Amazon, they had 57% of the growth in online sales. One company, 57% of the growth was in one company. Amazon's retail cap, market cap, is larger than the 15 other retailers combined. And those include Walmart and Costco and Nordstrom's and those companies. That's the impact that Amazon is having on the retail industry.
Let's come back to that in a moment. We need to take a short break. We've got Larry Stone with us, the six-term assessor of Santa Clara County, Silicon Valley, talking to us about the market. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
We're back with Larry Stone, the assessor of Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County, and also a longtime investor. And we're talking about the market here locally and in general, and the impact of e-commerce on retail, et cetera. Larry, I frequently we've provided a number of retail centers to our client base, and we always have to defend why we're doing it, because you ask the average person after looking at Wall Street headlines, they assume that all brick and mortar will be scraped from the face of the earth in the next 3 years, right? Which you and I know is not the case. And I asked him, so have you been getting your hair cut online? Have you been having a beer with your friends online? Have you getting your dog taken care of online? And I guess not. So
well, the products are being repositioned more than anything else.
Right.
And as we see, and around here, you would hardly know when you look at Valley Fair or Stanford that there was even a recession.
Yeah. I was just there a couple days ago, and I was just amazed at how busy it was. And
of course, the one thing that people are concerned about with the autonomous cars is all these parking structures that are around. In fact, I am told by an architect that they are redesigning or designing new parking structures, which are still needed, to be converted someday when everybody doesn't have to own a car, they just dial one up. So there's going to be major changes, I'm saying. Right now there is, and there's going to be continuing major changes in the retail business. But Amazon is releasing space now. They're looking at, I don't know if they've made any transactions, but they're looking at the vacant Toys R Us locations that are the best, because distribution is really important. The one property types that's
the last
very
mile.
hot, right? The last mile is warehouse. Less than 1% vacancy in warehouse and industrial property. Well, that's to bring.
Is that in Santa Clara County?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's it varies from 1% to 1.3, 1.5%. So that's the hot market, and of course it's distribution that they're building these centers. And of course, Amazon is an amazing company. They're even talking about air fulfillment centers that would float at 45,000 feet, filled with products. They have a patent for this now, so they're serious about it.
I haven't heard about this one.
Yeah, they float at 45,000 feet full of products. So instantaneously, when you place an order, drones would take the product that you wanted and float them down to the...
Not have to deal with congested corridors on the surface and so forth.
And they have applied for a patent, they don't have it yet, for underwater fulfillment centers. Airtight consumed. So you wouldn't have any aisles, you wouldn't have any shelving spaces or anything like that. It sounds crazy, I know.
Well, when I came here in '69, I was kind of, some people kind of thought, well, what else could be thought of, right? What else could be invented? Everything had been invented by then. Well, it turns out, just the more things that get invented, the more opportunity there is to leverage on top of that.
And of course, the major thing is our artificial intelligence and the impact that's going to have. There's a study out of Oxford University that says that 38% of all jobs in the U.S. will be displaced in the next 30 years. There's 3.5 million truck drivers.
I was going to say, it's probably going to start with truck drivers.
Yeah, there's like 30 million people I read have something to do with driving. Okay.
Mm-hmm. As a profession.
Yeah, as a profession that they no longer will have to do, and it's kind of scary. I just read about.
I think it's exciting. But if I were a truck driver, I might have a different view.
Right. Yeah. But I just read about a robot in San Francisco that makes the perfect salad. But many of those jobs will be, and they said the same thing about computers, if you remember.
I sure do.
Computers come in, they're going to take over everybody's job. Well, that didn't happen. It changed the job types, but it didn't change the industry. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a little bit different because they're really changing the work that people do.
Hasn't it been exciting living for all these decades that you and I have in the place that has changed the world more than any other place? Yeah. Oh my gosh, how blessed have we been? Huh?
Yeah, well, I worked on Wall Street, got transferred out to San Francisco, decided I didn't want to go back when my boss said come back to Wall Street. I met a couple guys and we started our real estate investment company, which you mentioned in your introduction, moved to Sunnyvale. And the only thing around was Intel was here a little bit after, a couple of years after I moved here, and obviously Hewlett Packard was here. But seeing
Lockheed, Westinghouse, heck, a few of them, but not a lot. Yeah.
But to see what's happened over the last 40, almost 50 years that I've been here is just incredible.
At our corporate Silicon Valley headquarters here, we're right at this moment looking out over Silicon Valley, which has latest estimate is somewhere in the ballpark of 5,000 companies in a little 25-mile wide valley. Right. And most of them won't make it, but usually they won't make it faster than in other places, and then they can move on to the next thing that does make it.
Steve Wozniak, his mother worked in my first campaign in Sunnyvale in 1975. And she was grousing about her son leaving college. And I said, how old is she, Margaret? How old is he, Margaret? And she said, and he gave me the age. And I said, look, when I was that age, I didn't know what I was going to do either. Yeah. And the rest is history.
Yeah. I built my first computer in 1975, and there was a guy at the Stanford Linear Accelerator lecture hall where we met monthly, who helped me out with some ideas on how to build it. Turns out that was Woz.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, he was the genius of the technology.
He sure was. And at any rate, where did we peak in our real estate value history here before the crash? At how much, and how far did we come down, and where are we now relative to that?
Well, we had a huge crash, unusual crash, as you know. But I think things are stronger now. They're greater now. I think the growth curve is much greater. I mentioned that our total assessed value of all real and business personal property on the assessment roll that I closed on July 1st was $485 billion. But the market value of that property is well over $1 trillion, probably.
$1.5 trillion?
$1.5 trillion. I mean, that's an estimate because nobody does appraisals on existing properties that don't turn over.
Yeah, because of Prop 13. Right. But so where Where does that compare to the value at the bottom of the market and at the peak before the crash, roughly? Do you?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I think we were. I know how much crashed in terms of value. Mm-hmm. That's $136 billion of assessed value crash.
So you could probably scale it.
Yeah. So you can. I can't do the math
3x
in my
or
head.
Something, right?
Yeah, I'm the assessor. I'm not good with math. That's what I'm told sometimes. So but it's been an up and to the right for going. I mean, we're going into 8 years now.
When was the bottom? 2011, 12?
In 2009 it started. 2010, the number of assessment appeals will tell you a lot. Mm-hmm. Normally we get 3,000 to 4,000 assessment appeals in Santa Clara County per year. In 2009 we got 12,000. 2010, 10,500. 2011, 9,500. We've now worked our way down to normal. Hasn't been normal times during this time frame, but down to normal to 3,000 to 4,000 appeals. So that will tell you the level of the crash. These are,
good barometer. Yeah, interesting barometer. But we're certainly way above the prior peak right now.
Oh, way above,
yes, which is not true in the country.
Right. But, well, the first roll that I closed, assessment roll I closed, was July 1st, 1995. The total value of all real and business personal property was $115 billion. Now, the last one I just mentioned was $485 billion, so over 4 times. Mm-hmm. And if I can give you just a little shameless promotion here, my staff during those 24 years has gone up 9%. So
your staff has only gone up what?
9%.
My goodness me.
So it's not government as usual in the assessor's office. Now, obviously, people are not necessarily working harder. A lot of that is technology. But I have returned $15.3 billion of my budget back to the county general fund, totaling $15 billion. And only 1 year out of 24 have I gone over my budget, and that was by $250,000.
Maybe that has something to do with why you keep getting reelected. We're with Larry Stone here, the Santa Clara County's 6th-term assessor and also a long-term investor. We'll be right back to ask him a little bit more about different asset classes, what millennials' impact have on the future. So stay with us.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
We're back on Real Estate Radio Power Investing with Larry Stone, the County Assessor of 6 terms, and also longtime investor, talking about our local Silicon Valley real estate market. So, Larry, how the different asset classes stacking up with each other as far as slowing down between multifam, office, warehouse, retail, industrial? Which ones of those are slowing the most right now, and which ones still seem to have some life left? Still have some supply shortage?
Well, the one property type that seems to be very, very strong, and we talked about the distribution centers and so forth to accommodate online sales and distributions, warehouse and industrial, still very strong. Don't see any weakness in that area. Mm-hmm. The housing market is beginning to soften some. Mm-hmm. The apartments, I think that market has reached its peak.
Yep. I think we've kind of, because they only build Class A, and Class A now is kind of saturated. Right?
Yeah, and of course, the hospitality market around here has been very strong. With corporate budgets coming out of the recession going up, corporations and employees are traveling more. We're still a business-oriented hospitality area. Hotels are doing quite good. And as I mentioned, retail is simply just repositioning itself, and the retailers are really trying to find out what they need to do to, because some parts of retail are declining fairly significantly. I mentioned
the more commodity-oriented they are, if they have not been successful in creating an e-commerce partner with themselves. Right?
The retail is the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look at millennials and what they do, what products they buy, and things that they do is much different than you and I.
Mm-hmm.
But food is restaurants, people eating out substantially more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what happens in a good economy.
Part of the experience.
Yeah, right. But it's the experience.
My feeling too is that in retail, the more service component it has. People still like to try on clothes even if they buy some online, right? They,
some oftentimes the online is a place to do research,
mm-hmm.
to read comparisons to read, compare products, and then go to the retail store to close the deal. Now I did that recently at Best Buy.
Which is the opposite of what some people think, right?
Right. So if you want to look at the marketplace,
mm-hmm.
the products that you have, and compare reviews and compare products, then when you go to the retail store, you don't have to wander around much. You know exactly what you want because you read about it online, and then you go in and get it not the next day, but right then.
The malls that are going to survive, what are they going to do to survive?
Well, I think the malls are really in trouble, and I don't think it's cyclical. I think it's a forever trend.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Valco, that's kind of what's happening. And that doesn't mean that they're all going to go down, but I mean, when you have a reputable researcher saying 30% of all 1,100 malls that we have in this country will go out of business over the next 24 months. Whether that's accomplished or not, it'll tell you the trend, and it's not good.
And it's fast.
So,
it's a fast trend in real estate.
Yes. And so, but malls are not strip centers. Malls are not,
Do you think they're going to repurpose space to entertainment and service?
They have to,
mm-hmm.
yeah, they have to. And of course, what Amazon is doing, when they bought Whole Foods, it sent a shockwave through the grocery industry. And somebody called it a threat to every supermarket and corner store in America.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
We're back on Real Estate Radio Power Investing with Larry Stone. People were saying, my gosh, all brick and mortar is going to get scraped. Here, the largest e-commerce company in the world buys $13.7 billion worth of brick and mortar.
Absolutely. And it's a reverse trend.
Uh-huh.
So they're looking at, as I mentioned, Toys R Us space. They're opening up bookstores all over
Amazon Books now.
The country.
You got to wonder, was that the plan from the beginning to take out all the competition?
Once they've established themselves, and they certainly have, then they can draw people to brick and mortar stores because of their reputation on quality and fast delivery and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. I wouldn't write retail off, but it's going to look much different in the future, beginning right now, than it has.
Where do you think we are in our market cycle? How much do you think we can keep kicking the can down the road here? And if you have any thoughts nationwide, I'd like to hear that too. But here in Silicon Valley, I mean, we got to be one of the top economic powerhouses in the country, and everybody keeps saying, well, we must be near the end, and it just keeps on moving. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just came from a conference in Boston that put on by ULI, the Urban Land Institute, which I think is a wonderful organization. I learn a lot, and most of these people are saying there'll be some kind of correction, adjustment, recession, at least by the end of 2020. I think we're beginning to see it,
which is way longer than most people would have predicted 5 years ago.
Right. And of course, it's always dangerous for the assessor to be projecting anything into the future. And if we knew all this stuff, but we're just seeing the kind of softening in most of the property types that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's anything serious. The fundamentals are just much stronger than they were 18 years ago.
And we still seem to have a supply shortage in most asset classes, right?
That's correct. So, real estate developers will overdevelop everything if you give them the money. I learned that as a mayor when I had a developer up and asking for permit to build something, and I said it just shouldn't make any sense to me. And I said as the mayor, so why are you doing this? And he said, he looked at me funny and he said, why am I doing it? And I said, yes. And he said, well, because I'm a developer. He said, we developers will overbuild everything if you give us the money. And I thought the most transparent and honest answer was from that. So it's the lenders that control that more than the developers.
As an old traditional guy, I say, all right, I'll flow with this the best I can, but once a week, I want everybody to see the eyeballs of everybody. So
yeah, and they delay marriage longer, so they're and they'll have less children. They grew up in a one-click world, and
one-click world. That's
and their mindset is just totally different. Mm-hmm. So being able to move around, they no longer believe. They saw trillions of homeowner equity disappear during the collapse. So they no longer believe that home ownership is an automatic investment that appreciates in value. Mm-hmm. They're much more mobile, so their mindset is, why get tied down to a mortgage? Older people believe that renting is throwing your money away, but an increasing number of young people, particularly millennials, believe that owning is throwing your freedom away. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole different mindset. Fascinating group of people. They are dictating what our offices look like and what kind of technology is going into those offices.
We have a Wilson Investment Properties sponsors an education forum called BACOM, Bay Area Commercial and Multifam, BACOMM.club, monthly meetings, and we meet in a WeWork center. Mm-hmm. And every time we have a meeting, there are several people that are in the WeWork center that poke their heads in to see what's going on, and they sit down and become a part of the conversation. It's pretty fascinating.
Right. Well, what millennials want in a job, a private office is number 9 on the list. Okay.
With walls and glass in the door.
Right. It's how close you are, how close you live to your job, how you get there.
Or don't get there.
Right. And some millennials are embracing the gig economy, where they don't want to work for a company, but they want to be a quasi-independent contractor.
Mm-hmm. Because freelance.
It resolves the problem of mobility. Mm-hmm. They don't look, in the old days, you wanted to work, my parents wanted to work for the same company for, and get the gold watch
and a pension. Right?
Yeah, around here.
What's a pension?
If you work longer with the same company for more than 7 years, there's something wrong.
Something wrong with you. Yeah.
Right, and it's just a complete flip of the environment that you and I grow up in.
Indeed.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
We're back on Real Estate Radio Power Investing with Larry Stone. the County Assessor of 6 terms, and also longtime investor, talking about our local Silicon Valley real estate market. What is this valley and our urban areas in California, what's it going to look like in 10 years?
Well, I think people will still go to work. I don't think, working at home. In fact, actual telecommuting is going down, not up. Lower waged workers are getting out of here simply because of the cost. The housing cost, Detroit was the envy of the world in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Detroit is in bankruptcy. Population has gone from 2 million to 600,000.
That's why San Jose became the 10th largest, right? It wasn't because we grew that much, because Detroit passed us on the way down.
Tesla and others, we're becoming the motor capital of the world right here.
Who would have thought?
Right. But I'll tell you, if we do not solve the affordable housing project, both rental and owner-occupied, and you only do that if your population is growing, you've got to build more housing. If we don't solve that, we could very well go the way of Detroit. And things happen here very fast compared to Detroit. So, we could go through that problem. And we must solve our housing problem. Okay.
Well, on that note, Larry, I'm going to thank you for being with us. You always have great insights. It's been always enjoyable to talk to you. And you have a lot of decades of experience and bring us some great thoughts about the future, as well as telling us what the history's been. So this is Real Estate Radio Power Investing, sponsored by Wilson Investment Properties. We encourage you to go to TomWilsonProperties.com, sign up for a newsletter. We'll let you know about, we'll get you access to all of the radio programs. Also, by doing that, it gives you access to the syndications that Wilson Investment Properties provides, probably a new one about every 6 weeks. And the only way you can get access to it and invest in these different assets around the country is by initiating a connection with us. So we look forward to having you come back, and Larry, and to have all of you listeners join us on our next podcast. So please, again, go to TomWilsonProperties.com for education information to sign up with us. And remember, the only thing that matters is what you do next.